12,000 pounds. That is what a 6-ton jack stand claims it can hold, and the number is stamped right into the steel where you can read it while you are lying underneath it. In 2020, Harbor Freight recalled roughly 1.7 million Pittsburgh Automotive jack stands because the locking mechanism could let go under load and drop the vehicle without warning. That is already a bad story. But it is not this story, because Harbor Freight then shipped free replacement stands to every customer who sent the defective ones back. And in July of that same year, the company recalled the replacements. The fix failed. This video is about the worst jack stands ever sold in this country, and the reason it exists is not the first recall, it is the third one. A jack stand has one job, and it is the simplest job in the entire garage: hold the weight. A floor jack lifts the car and then the stand takes over, because a hydraulic jack can lose pressure and solid steel cannot, at least in theory. Every mechanic learns this in the first week. The jack lifts, the stand holds. You never trust the jack alone, which means the jack stand is the last object between your chest and several thousand pounds of vehicle, and it is also, in most American garages, the cheapest tool in the room. Harbor Freight sold these under the Pittsburgh Automotive name. A red base, a tooth steel post, a small lever on the side. 3-ton and 6-ton versions, running from about $25 up past $100, sold for years, reviewed well, and sitting under an enormous number of American cars at this exact moment. And between March and July of 2020, 3 separate federal recall campaigns were opened against them. Campaign number 20E016, campaign number 20E027, and campaign number 20E046. Together they cover about 1.83 million units. The third number is the one almost nobody talks about, because the third campaign does not cover the stands Harbor Freight sold. It covers the stands Harbor Freight sent out to make things right. If this is the kind of thing nobody tells you in the tool aisle, subscribe, because that is what every video on this channel does. To understand what went wrong, you have to understand what a jack stand actually is on the inside, and it is almost insultingly simple. There is a base. There is a vertical post with teeth cut into it. Each tooth is shaped as a right triangle, so the flat edge faces down, parallel to the ground. A small pivoting bar called a Pawl drops into the notch beneath one of those teeth. Pull the post upward and it clicks past. Push it down and the Pawl catches the flat underside of the tooth and stops it dead. It is the same principle as the ratchet inside a socket wrench stood on its end. The elegance of the design is that gravity does the work for you. The heavier the vehicle, the harder that Pawl is driven into the tooth. There is nothing to leak, nothing to lose pressure, nothing electronic to fail. It is steel resting on steel, and that is exactly what is supposed to make it the most trustworthy object in the building, which means there is only one way for it to fail. The steel has to not be where it is supposed to be. The stands were manufactured in China by a company called Jiaxing Golden Rock Tools, and according to Harbor Freight's own federal filing, the manufacturer determined that the defect came down to the aging of production tooling. Read that sentence again, because the entire tragedy is sitting inside it. The dies that stamped the teeth wore out, slowly, over years. And as they wore, the teeth came out shallower and less consistent, and the Pawl stopped dropping in deep enough to hold. On the 3-ton stands, there was a second flaw layered on top of it, an inconsistent location for the hole the Pawl arm pivots on, which changes exactly where that Pawl lands. The federal report states the consequence without any drama at all. With a potential shift in weight, on certain units the Pawl may disengage from the extension lifting post, allowing the stand to drop suddenly, and nothing about that failure announces itself in advance. There is no warning sound, no visible crack, no rust. A defective stand and a perfect stand look identical on the shelf. They weigh the same in your hand, and they click exactly the same way when you raise them. The company also did not find this in a laboratory. According to its own filing, one of the things that raised the flag in January of 2020 was a review of online social media content. The customers were talking about it before the manufacturer was listening, which raises an obvious and uncomfortable question. If the people using them already suspected how many had already come down, then somebody on the internet did something Harbor Freight's engineers apparently had not. A user on Reddit took the jack stand he already owned painted the Pawl, lowered the loaded post onto it, and then looked at where the paint had rubbed away. The contact patch, the actual metal touching metal, the only thing standing between a car and the concrete, was smaller than a square centimeter, smaller than the tip of his thumb. The drive published the photographs, and once you have seen them, you cannot unsee them, because the tooth was not sitting on the Pawl. It was grazing it. Harbor Freight's filings put the estimated defect rate at around 5%. That number comes from the company, not from an independent laboratory, and it is worth saying that out loud. But take it at face value for a moment and do the multiplication. 5% of 1.7 million stands is tens of thousands of defective units, already sold, already in garages, completely indistinguishable from the good ones. The recalls arrived in stages. First came the 6-ton stands, item number 61197, 454,000 units, filed with the federal government in the spring. Then came the 3-ton stands, item numbers 611196 and 56371, 1,254,000 units, and that second batch reached all the way back to production from December of 2012 because the company could not prove which years were safe, so it took them all. On May 28th, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration did something it very rarely does. It issued a public consumer advisory. That is the federal government interrupting your day to tell you to stop using a product you already own, right now, today. Now here is where most coverage of this story goes off the rails, and this channel is not going to do that. At the time of the recall, 11 injuries had been reported, 6 involving the 6-ton stands, 5 involving the 3-ton stands. None of them were life-threatening. You will also see a figure attached to this story all over the internet, 4,822 injuries a year. That number is real, but it is a broad federal estimate drawn from emergency room data covering every Jack and Jack stand failure from every brand in the country. It has nothing specifically to do with Harbor Freight. Nobody needs to inflate this story. The documented facts are damning enough on their own. Because look at what the company did next, and understand that at first it looks like the right thing. Harbor Freight pulled the product. It filed with the regulator, it notified its customers, and it offered every one of them a free replacement. A new 3-ton stand, item number 56373, from a different production run entirely. Hundreds of thousands of Americans boxed up the dangerous stands, mailed them back, received the new ones, slid them under their vehicles, and lay down on the concrete underneath them. On July 7, 2020, about 2 months after the second recall, Harbor Freight recalled the replacements, about 118,000 of them, and the cause was not the Pawl this time. It was not the teeth. It was an inadequate weld on the inside of the red base, a weld that could split open and let the entire stand fold. 2 completely different defects, 2 completely different failure points, the same product from the same company, and the second one arrived inside the box that was supposed to be the apology. Eric Schmidt, the founder of Harbor Freight, then did something founders almost never do. He did not hide behind a corporate statement. He personally emailed the company's entire customer base and posted publicly, and he wrote that he was disappointed and embarrassed, and he admitted that the welding defect had not been caught during the original recall investigation. As corporate apologies go, it is one of the more human ones on record, but an apology is not a load rating. The remedy drew fire as well. The first recall offered customers a gift card, store credit, money that could only be spent back inside the same store that had sold them the defective product in the first place. Only after the second failure did the company offer a genuine choice, a cash refund at retail price or a gift card with 20% added on top. And then there is the detail almost nobody knows, the one that turns this from a story about a company into a story about a system. There is no federal safety standard for jack stands, none. The recall documents themselves list no applicable standard because none exists. The government holds the power to force a recall once a jack stand has already been shown to be dangerous, but there is no mandatory rule anywhere that says how strong one has to be before it is allowed onto the shelf. The only standard governing these tools is a voluntary engineering guideline written by the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, and voluntary means precisely what it sounds like. The system is built to react to failure. It was never built to prevent it. which is exactly how a set of dies in a factory in Zhejiang province could wear down across years, stamping shallower and shallower teeth with no inspector anywhere in that chain legally required to catch it. And the consequences were not theoretical. In July of 2023, a lawsuit was filed in Michigan on behalf of a man named Justin Brandenburg. According to the complaint, he was working beneath the front bumper of his pickup truck in March of 2021 when a jack stand with a defective weld gave way and the truck came down onto his chest. He survived. And to be precise about what the record does and does not show, no confirmed fatality caused by these specific stands appears anywhere in the federal documentation. The word you will find in law firm advertising is not the word you will find in the recall reports. This story has never needed it. Harbor Freight, for the record, never stopped selling jack stands. The recalled steel items were never brought back under those numbers, but an aluminum Pittsburgh 3-ton stand stayed right there in the catalog, and it is still on sale today. And none of this was ever really about one company. In August of that same year, Walmart recalled 13,956 Hypertough 2-ton jack stands after an independent laboratory found a failure in the ratcheting bar. A different brand, a different retailer, a different supply chain, the exact same weak point in the exact same design. So here's what actually changes once you know all of this. Look for pin-style stands, where a solid steel pin passes all the way through the post instead of a pawl catching a tooth because you can see a pin and steel and shear does not slip. Look for double locking designs with 2 independent poles so that one failure is not the failure. Look for names with a record behind them. Esco, Sunex, Omega, Hein Werner, United States Jack. And then follow the one rule that would have protected every single person in this story no matter which brand they bought. Never trust a single point of support. Leave the floor jack snug underneath. Slide the wheel you just took off under the rocker panel, because the entire premise of a jack stand is that it cannot fail, and 1.83 million recalled units are the proof that a premise is not a promise. Subscribe if you would rather learn this before you crawl under a car than after.